Welcome to In the Know. I am your host, Tony Reeves. In March of 1992, I was starting my first job in Tallahassee, Florida. Now, even though this city was 4 hours away from where I had attended college, it could have been a million miles away. See, I was 22 years old. I was in a new city where I had no friends and no family. But then there was also another hitch to this whole thing. I had just gotten out of a very bad relationship. And there's something that's always troubling about getting out of a bad relationship because everyone handles it differently. For me, I handled it by not communicating with anyone. For the first few months of my job, I decided to bury myself in my work. I dreaded the weekends because that left me alone to my thoughts. I found ways to work as long as I possibly could. I didn't even ask for any extra help during the first couple of months where I was struggling. Just trying to make enough money to be able to pay for groceries. Back then, I only got paid once a month, so when I paid all my bills, I usually only had enough money to make sure that I had gas in the car and maybe enough money for something like eggs or bread. I had no furniture. I had a small TV. One of my coworkers let me borrow a full mattress so that I would have a full bed to sleep on. I had a Sears credit card, which I used to buy a couch, and then the dishes that I had were dishes that I had from my senior year in college. There were a couple of occasions that I took it upon myself to travel back and forth from Tallahassee to Tampa to hang out with friends. I did meet a few people here and there as I tried to figure out what I was going to do next. I knew that this was not going to be the job that I was going to spend the rest of my life doing. But the truth is, I was isolated. I didn't hardly speak to anyone. Very few people knew my number. I didn't reach out to communicate with anyone at all. I volunteered for quite a few special projects at my job, and quite a few of those projects gave me the ability to travel to some different offices. And halfway through my year of my first year, I found myself regularly traveling to all of the major offices in our state. And the best part about doing that is that it continually kept me out of my apartment. I just couldn't stand the quiet. Because every time I was alone with my thoughts, I was thinking about how lonely I was and how I had messed up in my previous relationships and how I truly did not believe that I was worthy enough to have any friends who cared about me, even though that was not the case. But I will say working the job gave me purpose. I was working in the headquarters office for this agency. I was working for the gentleman who was actually spearheading a lot of major programs. So I was able to redirect or rechannel my energy into doing all these other things so that I would forget about the fact that I was sitting in this apartment by myself. And see, the worst part about being depressed is that when something happens during that depression, that can amplify it. And it truly will. So during the time I was there, I decided I was going to start to apply to graduate schools in cellular biology. I had applied to several schools, and unfortunately, every one of them rejected me. However, there was one school that did not respond. And I was excited because at least I thought this school was going to give me a chance. But then after a period of time, I kept wondering why I had not even gotten a rejection letter. So I decided to call the school and ask them what happened. They said they had not made a decision because they were waiting for a reference from one particular professor. So I called my old school to ask about the professor in terms of his contact information, and the school gave it to me. So when I contacted the professor said he was hoping that I would call so that he could ask me if I really thought that this is something I could actually do, because he remembered when I was a student and he knew my grades weren't really strong. So he was just questioning whether I was or I should be looking at this pathway. Man, let me tell you, I was hot. Here I am trying to figure out what the next level of my life is going to look like, and I have been already feeling so low by all these rejections. And to find out that one school was considering me, but they were waiting on him, and the school didn't contact me, and then when I contacted him, he was waiting for me to call as well, as opposed to him trying to find me. So basically, I told him to do whatever he felt was best. I don't even remember if I ever got anything from the university. But at that particular point, I wouldn't have cared because I was so devastated that this professor thought it was his responsibility to hold a recommendation, as opposed to trying to contact me to talk to me about it. So after almost a year, and I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do next with my life, I thought I hit a low with no light in sight. Fortunately, that would not be the lowest point. And I actually got the opportunity for something better that would open up the doors for me for the future in ways I could never imagine. Thanks for tuning in. I hope that you look forward to my journey as I talk to you about life after college. And stay tuned for upcoming episodes, and I look forward to having you back here again. I am Tony Reeves, and as always, I want you to stay in the know.